¿Usted es el que me va a encerrar de nuevo en el loquero?
No, yo soy el perito. No puedo encerrar a nadie.
Buenas noches,
Hola,
¿cómo le va?
buen día.
Buenos días.
Además de nosotros está Pedro
Good
Suga, que es el
morning.
músico de la
Pedro
película,
Suga, who's the
granadino,
musician of the
genio.
film, who's from Granada. He's a genius.
Y Natalia Cito, la autora de
And the author of the novel.
la película.
Natalia Zito, the novel upon which the film is based. And other beloved people, Fer.
Nos falta gente.
And there are
Hola,
people
¿qué tal?
missing.
Bueno,
Hi.
bienvenidos a una nueva
Welcome
edición
to a
del
new
Festival
edition
de
of the
Cine
Film
San
Festival
Sebastián.
here in San
Como sabéis,
Sebastian.
vamos a
As you
presentar
know, we're
la
going to
película
present a
inauguración
film,
de este año,
inaugural
que
film this year, which is a film which also convenes in the official section this evening. In this section, this edition, Santiago has already introduced people who's not on the panel, but that are just important in the film. And let me introduce the people who are with us today. On the far end, Santiago Mitre, in this case, the producer of the film, Agustina Jambi Campbell, producer, Jan Gilde, the director of the film, and also one of the main actors, and Carla Peterson, one of the main actresses in the film. Let's open up the QA, and if you need any help, I will give you a hand. There's a first question here.
Hola,
Hi,
buenos días.
good morning.
Enhorabuena por
Congratulations for having had
ya recibimiento
and this reception,
caluroso, ¿no? Esta
warm
mañana de la
reception this
crítica, que
morning
siempre
of the
es tan
critics,
difícil,
which is always so difficult,
preguntarle a Daniel
to ask
Handler dos
Daniel
cosas.
Handler two things.
Primero, ese
First of all,
desdoblamiento,
this dedoubling,
de repente le vemos
all of
como
a sudden
director,
we see you as a
actor, cómo se ha
director and an
producido
actor.
esta circunstancia,
How
cómo
has
llegas
this happened? How did you
a
come
eso.
along to do this?
Y luego preguntarle
And
también
then
sobre
also like to
un
ask
tema tan
you
importante,
about an
¿no? Como
important
pone
issue,
encima de la
not
mesa,
on
tu
only
película,
how
risa y
to
risa,
address.
o reflexión y reflexión,
Or is there a
de
reflection
salud
or is it
mental. Hay que
laughter?
hablar,
We're
¿no?
talking
de-
about mental
de
health.
salud
We have
mental.
to talk about mental health. Is that correct? Yes, thank you. So though you said the reception was very good, it was warm, there was a warm applause. Yes, that's good to know because it's the first time we're presenting the film, so therefore we're very proud of doing this. Yes, the first question. First of all, the fact that the risk was taken by Agustin and Santiago here of asking me to play the role, the double role of directing and being an actor, well, it was a novelty for me, the truth is, and initially it was a bit alienating, but it started to operate and work thanks to a magnificent crew and cast that did make things easier, and also those little monitors that we have. I could take them everywhere, and before acting to see, so therefore I put it in my pocket, a little screen, and more or less that's how we surfed things between us all. And then as regards to mental health, yes, I think that the challenge that we had was also to talk about that what is the fine line between what is health or what is not health, or that line or the borderline which leaves people excluded from society and the norms of society. And Martha, who challenged us to understand other possible limits in which, albeit she doesn't behave as one expects, she thinks she has the right, and invites us all to address, to see how far the norms that are imposed vis-a-vis mental health, we should understand them as being what they correspond. That was a challenge for me, and I hope that we found a balance and also a reflection in the film. Another question? Rodrigo Francet from Brazil. Excuse me for my savage Spanish and Portuguese mix. Daniel, I remember Norberto a little apenas tarde. I'd like to know, how do you see the evolution as a storyteller and as a director from here, that film 15 years ago to now, mainly because of what we can say. It's a moment of comedy. It's a fun film, but I'd like to understand why. Santiago, can we talk to us about, I think that we who come from South America, to have Argentina and inaugurating a film like festival like this, it's very important for us. Everything that Mike has gone through, my country has gone through, and your country is going through, symbolically to be here inaugurating a film festival like San Sebastian. Thank you. Yes. Okay, I can start. Well, okay, who can start? Who's going to start? Well, I'll start. The truth is that we're very honored because to be a producer and to be in an inaugural film at a film festival, it's a great honor, and also because of the circumstances that our country is going through, and in particular, culture and the cinematography and films with the constant attacks by the executive power, especially the president, closing down, symbolic closing down of public finance that the National Cinema Institute of Argentina used to provide, and that's how we used to make films. But that's it. Well, an Argentinian film inaugurating a film like this prestige, it's a sign of that makes us feel delighted, and also the film festival is showing how important Argentinian film is for the world. So therefore, we're thankful and grateful for it being the inaugural film of the film festival, but also thankful and grateful because we're showing Argentinian film. And then, and going on to other issues, which are not that important, perhaps, but what you were talking about and asking about, Norberto, that line and that link between that Norberto film book 15 years ago and now, I think there's a bit about what happens. Well, I'm thinking out loud because it's difficult to understand the relationship that may exist between the film, that film and this film, but it can be perhaps. Norberto used a mask or a costume to go out into life and to find himself. And this other film, Marta, perhaps, on the contrary, tries to show that it's not, she's not wearing a costume, it's her. It's herself, and she's trying to show herself as she is. And that's what occurs to me. It's very beautiful what you've said. That's the way. Perhaps if I had more time, I could say something very interesting. We're very fans of Daniel's film as a director. Norberto, buenos dias. Norberto, good morning. You should see this film. It was here also. So that moved me very much to think that we've come back with this film. The candidate also was in films in progress, and you have another film here, Asistencia Perfecta. So he's got a lot of work. Another question here, yes. Hi, good morning. I'm curious about the treatment and how the screenplay was dealt with. That tone of research makes it very funny because whether he's a detective, they ask him on the film, and I would like to know whether you wanted to give that jovial tone or was already in the original material. How did you work on that to give it that little almost comedy-like gestures? Was that in the original book or not, or in the original script? Yes. The detective side of Casares, the character who's the legal expert who investigates the case, and he's got to give a diagnosis in the film. But the truth, it comes, there's something in the first version of this screenplay written by Mariano Signas, who proposed that play of a detective and a legal expert. It's something that was also, which was very solid. And then, well, in the film, and it also seems that it was the idea of giving it a plot which was more along the lines of a thriller. I'm not too sure. Perhaps not so much, but it was an investigation that had a bit of a comedy to it, and the character that wants to go in further and to understand the origin of this doubtful, shall we say, diagnosis that he has to make. Hi, Mario from Mundo Cine. First of all, congratulations for the film, as well as for inaugurating the official section of this San Sebastian Film Festival. Daniel, You were an emblematic face of the new film from Argentina, or Rio de la Plata, like Abrazo Perdido, where the youth was the main plot of those films. What drew your attention of this generational change? What drew your attention of this original novel that the film is based upon? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Natalia Cito's novel, which also includes a lot of research material, it seems to me that she proposes something about aging and youth at the same time. Marta, above all, she's a rock and roller who's not prepared to drop her arms and to leave things, and she wants to dance with her friends until her last day. And she also addresses what your true family is. She chooses going beyond that line or that limit which is established of being the family as the first intimate circle, and to place in that circle who she feels are much more accomplices and who are much closer to her. And it seems to me that this is a great moment in the real story, and the film includes, which is the possibility of befriending with that broken past that she has with her daughters. Yes, Maria from MRTV. First of all, congratulations, because the truth is I ended up crying at the end of the film. It's an accumulation of humor, but it also questions everything that has to do with mental health. In our country, we're talking about this, but we don't go in depth in that, the dividing line, which is that important between freedom and understanding the singularity of the person. Congratulations for showing it so well. And above all, more than a question is, I wanted to convey my admiration for the role of Marta and to ask her, how was that confrontation? And when you portrayed your roles, which is impressive, how you lived that moment acting with her, apart from the director and an actor. And Carla, how did you work on your character, which was so difficult? It's very difficult. That daughter who's, on the one hand, sees that she wants the well-being of her mother, but she wants to control her at the same time, and she understands the keys of her. I'm sorry for such a long-winded question, but I want to support Argentinian films and everything that's happening to you. Thank you very much. Yes. For me, what was a key element is to understand the relationship between both of them and their past, which was we were inventing it between us, and undoubtedly what we showed was that the priority wasn't love between both of them, the mother and the daughter. When they were children, even in the childhood, perhaps that freedom ended up being, perhaps to these girls and daughters, was dangerous, and perhaps they didn't understand that. And there was a lot at stake between them both. And that lack of love makes us not to understand these singularities and to judge this character, for example, and not to say they're very bad, but but to place yourself in a situation where that time arrives, for example, of perhaps trying to take care of your parents, or believe or feel that one has to take care of one's parents, to make mistakes, to having these, to have your priorities changed. I might wanted my character to be strong, to always feel that she was responsible of the family with so much liberty, for example, freedom when there's a lack, when the father is missing, which was perhaps place those limits, and she takes charge of everyone. And it's a chain of misunderstandings because she didn't talk, and they're not having to learn to talk to each other. This is what I want to do, to show this small world of these three women who can't deal with each other with love, and which at the end of the day, they don't even know who they are. There's something that they don't know of each other, but each of them have lived their own lives as they could. That's what I imagine, to portray this daughter and sister. Yeah, and it was difficult for that character, Miriam's character, to be able to call us to understand that her point of view, and I think Carla's charisma and the possibility that they have of entering into those ambiguous areas made it easier. As she said, we say, who are the bad guys and the good guys, and who's crazy and who's not crazy. We entered into those more complex waters, and thank you very much for the work that you've done. No, please. And as regards to what you asked me, well, Marilu, she's an actress and a person who's exceptional. She moved us very much. Working with her was, from all points of view, we miss her at present. She's about to premiere a play in France. She did say hello, nevertheless. But as you were saying, that duel between me and her was an honor, because she's an actress who I admire very much. And plus, she's always prepared to find an extra layer, an extra depth, and ask herself more questions into her roles, and that's a great value for us, actors and actresses. And she's always prepared to ask something more and to go further in depth. She has a level of concern, which is always surprising. Every time on stage, well, in the scene, was an honor. We say hello to her and send her a kiss. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask you, congratulations for your film. I interviewed En Paz Descansa Juan Pablo Rebella, and in 2004, 2005, I think. And I've admired the work that all of you have done. You work, there are, in the credits, Santiago, for example. How do you coordinate this production crew after so much time? I know with a variable that goes through it, I'm not too sure whether it's irony or satire, and that's marvelous, and how you think about this. And another question is, how did you choose the song of the Colombians, Elia and Elizabeth, when she teaches you how to dance? How did you discover that? That is not even known in Colombia. And, oh, thank you very much and congratulations. Let me answer the specific question. Then I'll allow you to answer. Elia and Elizabeth's song, I'm a Cloud. I listened to it. Big thanks to my brother, Federico Hendler, and Matthias Singer, both very love rock and roll. And Matthias showed me that record years ago, and I said, what music would Marta listen to? Well, this song appeared, emerged, and we liked it very much. And everything we hear in the film was discussed and deeply thought of between us all. And when we came to that song and we saw how well it fitted into Marilu to dance it, we had no doubts of using it. And as regards to what you've asked, the truth is, we who are sitting here and many of the people who are sitting in the front row, we've known each other for many years. With Santiago, we've worked together 25 years ago. You don't need to use 25 years. You don't need to say how long ago it was. But many films together, I as a producer and he as a director and producer, we found this new facet of producing actors and directors. We started with Blondie, with Hilary Fonzi, who was also in this festival, where Carla was also portrayed a role in it, and with Daniel. And apart from admiring him as an actor and as a director, we made a film, an exquisite film. I can say this, Pequeña Flor was the name of the film, that we did in France many years ago, and we had a participation in Vieja Loca, Martín Mauregue's opera prima, along with Daniel and Carmen Maura, which is now will be premiered in Sitges. So therefore, I wanted another thing. Pablo Stoll, for example, El Tema de Verano, who Daniel also plays a role in it. We like to make films. Like in a family, it's easier to make films between friends, especially in these contexts, adverse moments. And I want to I'm grateful of being able to make films like this. and then also the help of Netflix in this specific film. We kept total freedom to set up the cast and the crew. I would like to ask a question, especially to Agustina and Santiago as producers of the film, but also it can be extended to the rest of the people here today. When the selection committee, when we saw the film, one of the things that we liked and which drew our attention and we thought was attractive is that we spent so many times and we're seeing the appearance of many films that talk about taking care of people. But the focus is not, we address the carer, not so much the person who's cared for, which in this case, the person has to be cared for. We thought it was an important point of inflection, which opened up the possibilities about addressing an issue which those of us who have a certain age, we have to take care of children or parents, and so therefore we thought it was very important. I would like you to talk about whether that was in your minds when you read the novel and when you thought about making the film. And the other is how to incorporate the idea of taking care, not only to take care of a person, accompany them, but also to listen to this person. It's a film that is based upon listening, how Danielle's character gives the opportunity of her explaining that the daughters have not been able to know how to ask her. But could you address those issues and whether they were in your minds, or just simply it was our perception as the team that saw the film in the festival to choose it, to select it for the film festival? Well, yes. Yes, I suppose so. Well, I think that it's, as you say, I think there's a bit of the control system that focuses, as you say, about the person who takes care or controls these people excluded from the system or who are left out of what is considered health. And I think so. I think that the project and the novel that investigates this case gave us the opportunity to delving into this issue and to understanding someone who wants to live their lives until the last moment in freedom and who's not prepared to circumscribe to those limits. But the question is also aimed at you. Yes, taking care is not an exercise of control, for it not to be an exercise of power, which sometimes occurs when you take care of elder persons or adults or children, and to understand what those people need to be protected, to listening to them. Yes, the film ends up, would you say that, not in the, as of this case, but as a result, shall we say, or consequence, we modified the law of mental health in Argentina, and it incorporates the patient as an important voice before deciding them being institutionalized. It talks about the issue of freedom and about the search for freedom of a person who is forced of the control of their daughters to not exercise of freedom because of the prejudice of what your life should be at a mature age. And I don't know, and this has brought about a change of legislation in Argentina of cases such as this. It's interesting because that search for freedom of the character is extended, has been extended much more. Yes. The fear is true, is real. When the children, when the daughters don't want anything to happen to the mother, and those changes, and what we look at now, sometimes we look about the need of the family and not so much of the person who really has the problem. So therefore, the singularity of each thing when there's where there's a disability or a problem of mental health, it's a key element. It can't be in the hands of someone that accompanies you with love and comprehension and understanding, especially the person who's going through this, or in someone with a structure or with a certain codes. And I think that mainly in this film There's a bit of ego on how the treatment is carried out that they propose. So therefore, and we're talking about a social level where there are a lot of possibilities and tools, and so therefore they can experiment this with the mother who also likes to experiment, and one has the need and you don't have it, well, you can do what you can. All you do is what you can. So therefore there are many things that we can address and talk about this film, because I think that in life you project and you think and you don't know what's going to happen when that time arrives and what your needs are going to be. And some people can manage because they've got more or less, and there are different places or needs that are much more prepared for those moments, and many others that are different. It'd be a good idea that we can balance things out. That's what I wanted to say. Things that occur to me. Thinking a bit about this, because the film, we filmed it relatively shortly, a time ago, to premiere it, so therefore we saw it. All of a sudden we're here because he works quite a lot, as you know, he's very busy. So therefore we're talking about what we did as well, and thinking about all of this material. It's true. The truth is, the interesting thing is to make films. What making films is what comes back to us, not what we launch with the certainty of everything that we want to tell. There are things about the film that tells us at times, and we ask ourselves questions after seeing it, and we find each other with the answers. It's a film that was filmed this year, by the way, in January and February this year. So therefore the post-production was very quick and very fast process and very powerful. We're still trying to understand and trying to find what the film and how it's being encountered by the spectators. Any other further questions? Yes, there's one in the back. Hi, good morning, Maria Steffer from the EFE agency. You addressed this issue, but could you explain this financing, this cut in financing by the government? How are you feeling this in Argentina? From a practical standpoint, how have you noticed it? Do you believe that it's being noticed in the cinema ecosystem? You've got the backing of Netflix. You're trying to find alternative formulas for financing, and also social issues. The protagonist, she's a millionaire, she moves with people that have much less money. She wants to distribute what she has. But what drew my attention was the moment in which one of the researchers or investigators with great work explains that she sleeps in her office because she doesn't have electricity at home, and that's understood very normally, as if it was a normal run-of-the-mill thing to happen. That's a bit extreme, but it seems that we assume that's normal to happen in Argentina. How have you wanted to reflect this? It seems to be in a very subtle way in the film. And why did you choose that approach? Well, in your first question, the San Sebastian Film Festival always had a significant presence of Argentinian films. This year, the 90% of the Argentinian films that are present in different sections are films that were financed and produced by previous management prior to this government, of original films on platforms such as in our case, and Belén by Dolores Fonsi in the official section, official competition. Literally, films have not been made since this government took its possession with the support of the national government. The figure is 0, to be as clear as possible in what I wanted to say. So therefore it's quite probable that next year, in this film festival and other film festivals, the presence of Argentinian films will be less and less so. Obviously, there are independent expression. Argentinian film has the capacity to reinvent itself and to forge ahead. But the situation is absolutely dramatic at present. It's dramatic because these resources exist, but they don't go towards the film industry. And it's a situation in which the people us who make movies in Argentina, we were able to grow professionally thanks to the support of the state as a cultural policy that we didn't think that we're going to see again. But all of us here, we trained and learned with that protection, and the situation now is absolutely dramatic. And what's also quite clear is there's the will of interrupting something that operates and that worked quite well, and where it was a great example of how we articulate what is private and what is public in a very virtuous way, and that is simply the impediment, so that in a sector with so many people that involves so many small sectors in the economy is stopped, and we stopped that virtuous circuit. The thing is to not well understand the reason what behind this, whether it has to do with a confusion as regards to the value of culture, an error, I would say, but also the cinema law and the state makes funds and makes money where we subsidize productions of film, but it's not being used, it's not being implemented, it's being used for other things. So to a certain extent, they've kidnapped the money made from films to go against the industry, and as Daniel says, there's proof that it works quite well, but unfortunately, all of the talent that we've got on this here, and Netflix, for example, and Amazon and many other companies are being able to, seeing that Argentinian film has to continue to exist, and they are giving us a great amount of aid and help, but not everybody has the possibility of having access to those types of productions. And what concerns me the most is to not using the budget. We need a change. The people who work in the cinema world, which is a bit more fragile, for example, camera operators and so on, or less commercial, or less possibilities of being visible, they're the ones that need those support from the state and those subsidies. And also in turn, it's necessary to maintain the dialogue between films, between the different types of films. The more varied they are and the more varied are the way we produce things, we can discuss the cinematographic language. I think this is very valid. And above all, we've got to see how we try to get rid of ways of production that involve so many people and gives work to many people at the same time. And about the electricity, yes, about electricity, I just realized this truth. It's quite natural for us losing electricity at home. We've seen that and you've just shed some light on that issue. Isn't light cut off here? Doesn't this ever happen here in a city? There are periods in which, for quite a while in Buenos Aires, it's not something recent. Yes, all of a sudden your light will be cut off. There's excessive consumption. It's very interesting, your question, because it sets a contrast between that life that Marta has and the life of public employees. In that sense, I think it's a very intelligent sociological gesture that Danny and the screenplay writers include to show how it works in society, and it can also be something parallel. The light being cut off, that we're going to continue to make films, we're going to make films nevertheless. She's going to work the same. We're used to this, of overcoming problems. Making films, we've got a strong shield to defend ourselves and to forge ahead.
Bueno, pues si no hay
Okay,
ninguna
if there aren't
pregunta
any
más,
further
daros las
questions,
gracias
thank you
a
very
todos,
much to
noches,
all
a
of you
Santiago,
people,
Agustina,
Santiago,
Daniel y
Agustina,
Carla.
Daniel, and Carla
Gracias,
from
Desi.
27
todo
Noches,
el equipo
27
aquí
Nights.
presente.
Thank you to Essie
Estamos muy contentos.
and all of the team and crew behind us. Thank you
Gracias.
very much.